All right. Good morning, everybody. We still don't have many people on. Let's go ahead and get some people on here. I'm going to share the live link. Here we go. Let's get some people on here. All right, cool. Let's go ahead and get started, you guys. So if you are on live and it pauses or anything, let me know. I'm still working the kinks out of making sure that our stream is, fluid. It's still gonna pause. I think there's still gonna be some pauses in the live stream. Sorry about that. I'm still working it out, but let's go ahead and get started. If the video pauses, let me know. I can try to fix it. So. Let's not waste any time. Let's go ahead and dive right into today's agenda at 10 a.m., which is right now at 7 a.m. here, 10 a.m. on the East Coast. We are going to look at SPY. We're going to see what the S&P 500 is doing. General market overview. We're going to go through our usual morning routine, and then we're going to scan for new stocks, and then we're going to jump into an NVIDIA analysis and see what's going on with NVIDIA in 30 minutes. So let's get started with SPY. Let's go ahead and pull up the SPY chart. We just did a SPY chart because we just released our weekly SPY analysis. So if you don't know where to find that, if you're in our group, you could find it in our group. Or if you are on our website, this is actually a free analysis we put out for our website visitors. You can find it on here. As far as SPY goes, the overall trend still remains bullish. But you guys could see that we are at this triple top area right here where we've gotten rejected at twice before. And it looks like Friday's push to attempt to get above it has pulled back, and we are just trading below those lows, below this upside move this morning. So there could be a structural change here. Let's zoom in a little bit closer and see what's going on with the micro charts. If we look at the hourly candles, for example, we can see that the hourly chart has pulled back to the 100-day moving average. That's the first time it's visited this since December 19th. So the general trend you can see is still bullish, but we are weaker than I would like to see us this morning, especially that the Santa rally is usually until January 2nd, and then we want to see the January boom. And the fact that it's only December 29th and we're seeing such a strong pullback, a bit of a worry, but it's still super early in the day. As far as where SPY needs to go, so in order for SPY to maintain its overnight uptrend, it needs to close above 689.27. So I'm going to actually write that down here. I'm going to put SPY needs to close above 689.27 to maintain the overnight uptrend. So that's a key line. I'm writing that down because I want to remember that by end of day, if that, just in case something happens. So I'm gonna make that red as well. Cool. So it helps to kind of have that to keep to stay on track. And so SPY new hour, which just opened 4 minutes ago, opened below the 100-day moving average. So that is now acting as a resistance. In fact, you guys could see that wick that it moved on top. That represents the trace that it had in the last 4 minutes, and then it pulled back. So SPY is coming down. Volatility is moving higher. So VIX is significantly higher than where it was on Friday, which means option prices on the put side especially have gone up. Calls are likely crushed a little bit this morning. And as far as the biggest concern, or not biggest concern, but the biggest mover this morning is going to be precious metals. So you could see gold is taking a massive hit this morning. In fact, we took a put position on gold on Friday. So let's go ahead and pull that up. For those of you in our group, you guys actually got to get in on this early on. Whereas if you're not, you probably missed this entry, or if you're just seeing it now, you missed this entry. December 24th, we sent out this gold put. I believe we're up about 30% on this. We do have a pretty hefty price target, so we are we're about $20 of the way there. We still have another $20 drop. Might consider taking some profits a little bit earlier, but we have all the way up until 2027 on this gold put. It was just getting too hot for its own good. You know, silver was going, which is why I shorted gold, which because silver already had stretched out. You guys could see that this is silver's rally. This is the moment it broke above that key resistance, and gold was just starting to break above that key resistance here. So I didn't think gold could follow silver that strongly, especially because silver was squeezing because of industrial use, whereas gold was not. It was purely hedging. So I do think that the correction may just be starting. Yes, both of these precious metals have been seeing significant upside moves, so I do think that they will bounce. Just because so many people have been waiting to buy in on the sidelines. But I don't necessarily trust that bounce is going to hold, at least not in its current position. I do think that gold and silver have a little bit more of a correction to go in the coming months. All right, now that we've gotten that out of the way, general market overview, let's go ahead and talk about what's happening so far on the economic front. So this morning, no economic data scheduled, you guys. Okay, so nothing important, but we do. I'm sorry, let's refresh this. This is not current. This is showing me last week's. Okay, here we go. This morning, pending home sales at 10 a.m. That was already released. That's more on the real estate side. We are holding a couple real estate stocks. So we'll review if there's anything important here. We'll discuss it. Cool. So that's pending homes, and then tomorrow we have some scheduled. So some economic data scheduled, but the most important here of tomorrow is going to be at 2 p.m., which is the minutes of the Fed's December FOMC meeting. This is when they decided to lower interest rates. It helps to know what went on. So although there will be usually no new information introduced on a minutes report, it'll give us an insight of how individual Feds are feeling. It always helps to read through something like this because it kind of it answers questions that maybe you didn't know you had about the market. Another initial jobless claims reports on Wednesday, and then New Year's Day is going to be closed, and then no economic data scheduled. So the rest of the week looks pretty chill. Nothing serious. We're not getting any big inflation reports. We're not getting any GDP data. Last week we did see GDP data. Remember, the GDP report was 4.3%, far ahead than the 3.2% forecasts. But when we dove deeper into that report over the weekend, we noticed that the majority of the gains came from healthcare spending. So healthcare is essential, you guys. I don't really think healthcare spending should add to our GDP. Plus, a significant drop in imports also attributed to that growth. So exports are growing, which helps GDP. That's that's one of the truest measures of GDP. But the fact that imports count against, so they detract from GDP, helps that number grow when our companies stop importing so much. And because companies front loaded ahead of Trump's tariffs when they were first announced, they're importing less, therefore inflating that GDP number. So we have two things inflating the GDP number: healthcare spending, which I don't really think should count, and then the falling imports number. So without those, the GDP doesn't look that rosy. So that's something to keep in mind, and perhaps that's the reason the market is selling off today. Pre-market movers, it looks like none of these names we're really familiar with. Coupang, another big pre-market mover today. That was a big pre-market mover last week, so that's something to keep an eye on. Very little volume, nothing super big. And then as far as these shares, looks like there are some significant downside movers here, and this has to do with data centers. So Light, they do laser connectivity. They're trying to replace the traditional copper. Albemarle, this is a mining company. Astera Labs, this was a huge play not too long ago, but it's a high beta stock, so it's seeing a pretty big move down. And then DJT, which is Trump's media company. So a lot of downside movers this morning, like in terms of big names. This is a really significant drop on this name, and it could be setting up for a possible reversal, especially the fact that it moved right back below that 377. So I'm actually going to put that on here as a light put play watch on watch. Cool. Cool. All right. So, okay. So, what else do we have moving this morning? So, Nvidia looks like some of these stocks are the most active this morning. So, Nvidia, Intel, Plug, HPE, Palantir. We're gonna get into Nvidia at 10:30. So let's see what's going on with Palantir. Let's see what's going on with Intel. Palantir looks like it's moving lower this morning. It's back down to its 20-day moving average, which is this purple line. The stock, let's create some lines around this because I know that most of you do watch this stock. So let's pull up TradingView. And Palantir. Okay, so as we mentioned, that 20-day moving average is acting as a support right now. But if it breaks that point, there's not much support up until 168 to 169. So there's a lot of downside room to move for Palantir. For those of you watching the stock, we're not in this stock at this moment. Intel. So Intel is another big active mover this morning. Let's see what's going on with Intel. Intel looks like is back in the same trading range. So it's kind of been stuck here since the beginning of October. You guys will notice the stock hasn't really made very large, a big divergence from this area between 32 to 44. That could be for a couple of reasons. Remember, as a whole, the semiconductor industry, including NVIDIA and Taiwan Semiconductor, AMD, have been slowly pulling back. They've been cooling down. And I think, excuse me, sorry. They've been cooling down. And so I think Intel is one of the names that have had a really big jump based on the fact that the US government took a position in it. So the fact that the stock didn't have legs of its own, it was kind of moving off of a catalyst. It didn't really help it continue that rally, especially coming at a time where semiconductors were already falling under question. So right now, it's a very critical time for Intel because earnings are right around the corner. And so if the company doesn't have any big, groundbreaking catalysts, people may forget that the US government took a 10% position. Besides, people are already a little skeptical of the US government right now and the moves they're making. So I don't necessarily think this is a safe stock to buy and hold just yet. The stock is still significantly down in the overall picture, and they still have a ton of work to do. And of course, they're not the leaders. Taiwan Semiconductor is the leading fab. Broadcom is a leader. NVIDIA is a leader. Intel is still far behind. So I don't think necessarily Intel is very clear cut on what it does next just yet. Most active today, I don't see exactly where it can go next. Let's see what else. Tesla, we're going to get into Tesla later today. Broadcom, let's talk about Micron. Micron is another big name in semiconductors. So it looks like the stock is pulling back. It's one of the most active this morning. It's pulling back probably because they paid earnings this morning. But generally still holding very much near the highs and above 280. I would say that this is a good name to possibly watch for an entry again later in the day. Not a bad stock to continue watching. So I'm going to put Micron for a call play on watch, because if the stock finishes strong despite this morning's pullback from the market, then it may indicate that the stock is ready to go higher. Especially that's what you want to look for on the days where the market is extremely weak. You want to look for those standout names that remain strong despite the weakness. All right, so back to it. So most active. Analyst upgrades and downgrades. Let's see if there's any significant upgrades or downgrades. Most of them reiterates, maintains, downgrades. This is not upgrades. Costco got an upgrade. That was on the 24th. So nothing significant today as far as upgrades and downgrades. Let's see, earnings calendar. So no earnings, as you know, of course, it's a holiday week and then it's the end of the year. Top gainers this morning. All right, let's go ahead and look at our top gainers. Our scanner is light. You guys could see there's only half a page. This is one page. Usually we'd have 2 to 3 on a healthy market day, but you guys could see that this morning's pullback is really impacting the whole market. There's not many upside movers that are notable. We'll have to circle back to our scanner later in the day, which we have scheduled at 11:15 a.m. Eastern. So if you're going to be on, or if you're going to be on later, maybe come back at that time and be sure to look out for our new scanned watch list. Let's see if there are any headlines that we should cover before we jump into our NVIDIA analysis. Nothing new. You guys know that this is just the end of the year. It's just so slow. People are trying to see where the money's gonna go. The holidays are still active. Wall Street is still on holiday. So it's kind of a dead time just right now. But I do think that the market overall is in a healthy position for the next year. It's just a matter of getting buying volume back and seeing what sectors and industries are going to take over next year and which ones are going to kind of lead the way, if you will. So I will say that this morning we are seeing some movement from the oil industry. So Exxon, um, Chevron is also moving higher. Consumer defensive stocks are moving higher. So you have your KOs or Coca Colas of the world. Colgate, of course another huge consumer defensive. Verizon and AT&T, these are predictable cash flow. T-Mobile as well, moving higher. Reddit moving higher, which is a communications platform. Whereas you can see that your semiconductors and your big tech is moving lower. Visa, predictable revenue, also moving higher. So this is going to be interesting. I want to circle back to this at the end of the day because so I want to circle back to this at the end of the day, this specific heat map, because if this is how we end the day today, with deep red on the big large cap tech, and then strong green on oil and consumer defensive and healthcare, it can kind of give us a signal to where the money's gonna flow in the January boom. So historically, just like the Santa rally, we usually get a January boom or a January effect. That's where Wall Street goes on a buying spree and institutional traders. And so if this is already the trend, you're seeing your Walmarts of the world, your Coca-Colas, your Exxons. So these are all very predictable revenue. I mean, apart from oil, stocks, and money could be shifting to them as tech valuations fall under question. So very interesting chart this morning. It makes me wonder if we should be adding to our XLE position soon, because those of you who are in our hyperwealth group, you guys know that we're holding an oil position in XLE, and we've been holding it for quite some time as a hedge because energy is not going anywhere despite what anybody says. Oil's and then of course Trump has been granted I think $18 billion in tax benefits to oil companies since taking office, and then Chevron is getting a deal to drill into Venezuela. So definitely, maybe time to start looking at oil stocks. We're already holding some energy stocks. We put EQT on our watch list. This is a natural gas play. We put it on our official watch list for those of you in the group. So energy is looking pretty interesting this morning. I'm actually going to put that into our group chat. All right. We're going to cover NVIDIA in 7 minutes, you guys. Bear with me just a second. I will be right back. Thank you. For those of you who are on live, by the way, make yourself known. Who's on here with me? It's Monday morning. I didn't think anybody was going to join, especially that we're just starting to do this. We don't have that big of an audience yet. But if you're on, Say hello. I'll be right back. Give me a couple minutes. Just gonna grab something. All right. Thanks for the support, you guys. I appreciate you guys being on. Did you guys find this morning's live helpful so far? You guys like that structure where, general market overview, scan for stocks, talk about the economic data, look at the headlines. We're just kind of easing into our day. You guys know we're swing traders. We're not really day traders, at least not right now. There will be times which we are more aggressive on day trades, but the market is just such a beautiful swing trade market right now. There's no need to really go too aggressive on day trading. But there will come a time, and I do enjoy day trading sometimes. I do it on my own. Um, and maybe I'll share some day trades with you guys while you're on lives one of these days. So let's go back to. I'm just gonna look at our. I'm gonna look at the overview of what's happening with all our positions. That way, if anything needs to change, we could change it. So let's go back to gold, you guys. What a downside move, huh? We are holding that put on gold, which makes me so happy. I'm so glad we got into that put. Um, let's see what it's doing for us. Okay. So I think I'm going to take profits on this put on gold and I'm going to re-enter at a later point. Um, at some point today. All right, for those of you in our group, I just sent an update, you guys. Here, I'll show it to you on here. I took profits on my gold put for a 33% gain, about $100 on that put. Um, we caught that so perfectly. I mean, just awesome. All right, guys. So one more minute, and we're gonna jump into Nvidia's chart. We're gonna talk about what's happening with the stock, and we're gonna go from there. Cool. All right, so let's jump right into it. Let's pull up Nvidia to see what's happening with the stock. We're gonna first start off on my Thinkorswim platform. I like to start here because I have all my oscillators and indicators on here. So you guys can see that I have my moving averages, I have my MACD and my RSI, and then we'll move on to TradingView to create some levels. But first things first, Nvidia pulling back from Friday's highs of 190 plus and is heading closer to its moving averages, but still trading above all of its moving averages. So the 10, 20, 50, 100-day moving averages, you guys could all see that they're trading very close to one another. So unlike Micron, for example, which you could see that all of its moving averages are moving away from each other, or they're far apart from each other, Nvidia is trading, those moving averages are right next to each other. And the reason why is because Nvidia hasn't really moved in 6 months. So Micron has been rallying, so its moving averages are apart. Again, for those who need a refresher, moving averages measure the average price over the specified period. So for this example, the 10-day moving average, this tracks the average price over the last 10 days, which in this case was 261.93. And then the average price over the last 20 days is 253. The average price that Micron closed out over the last 50 days is 234. And so if we're looking at Nvidia, the stock has moved sideways. So its moving averages and its average price over the last 50 days, 10 days, 20 days, has been the same. It's been the same so long that even its 100-day moving average is starting to move very close. So that tells us there's a lot of uncertainty. So the company's buyers are not letting go, and sellers aren't strong enough to sell. And there's no reason to really buy a lot or sell a lot right now. So people are maybe waiting on earnings. They may be waiting on some kind of catalyst that moves it higher. They may be waiting on new technology. They may be waiting on those China sales to come in. So right now, Nvidia is a waiting game. I think that playing Nvidia it's kind of a right now it's more based on waiting than it is playing, and that's why we're just holding our position. It's one of those stocks to hold, not to trade. But either way, if you are trading it, here are some levels for you to pay attention to. So we already had some levels established, I think, from last week, but let's go ahead and zoom in a little bit further. Let's clear this. So Nvidia's resistance remains here at 195 to 196, and you guys could see that it's still trading above that breakout that has been holding it back. So it was getting held back by this since late October. It's been making a downtrend. It finally broke out from this downtrend, headed towards that 195 to 196 resistance, but was not strong enough to get above it. Now trading between those 2 points. So really, it can go either way, you guys. It's starting off the new year, we might start seeing some people take some profits early on in the year to cover some profits, some taxes. We might see a big boom. You know, if there's a January effect and Nvidia has a strong catalyst, it might boom. Really, one of those stocks that doesn't have a trend right now. Of course, the general consensus remains bullish just because of the overall trend in artificial intelligence. But the stock itself, no clear direction as of right now. It's a bit tough to play. I would say that if you're a buyer or an investor, just wait, stay patient. No need to rush it. No need to make any quick decisions on this right now, just so we could see what the stock brings forth in the new year. So I think we have a question in the hyper group. Levels, entry points for gold. I'm considering a trade after this massive drop today. So let's go ahead and pull up gold. We're already going to cover gold later on in this video, but maybe we'll get a jump start here since we're getting a question about it. So you guys could see that that 382 to 392 mark for gold was a previous consolidation range. So we're gonna put previous consolidation range 382 to 392. And so if it breaks below this level, I think gold will easily come down to 368. Here we go. Okay, cool. So all right, guys. For those of you who are on, if all right, guys, I'm going to be in the background just making a smoothie real quick, making a shake, a protein shake. So if you guys have questions while I'm gone, please let me know in the group chat. I will be right back. Yeah, thank you. that, you guys. All right, yeah, now I'm back on. Yeah, thanks for letting me know that the stream is getting paused. I'm actually the one that's restarting it. I'm aware that it's getting paused. I'm trying to figure out how to, fix the stream to be a little bit smoother. I'm kind of new to this, so forgive me for that. Please bear with me, and thanks for letting me know. In terms of Meta, you're asking about Meta. A lot of people are giving it an 800 price target. I think Meta and a lot of large cap tech in general right now, the uncertainty going into next year is, will their spending pay off? There's a lot of billions being dedicated to artificial intelligence, data centers, in-house chips, and Meta is one of those companies that's committed a lot of money to this. And investors want to see a return on investment. We all saw that Metaverse and the Meta glasses have pretty much flopped. I mean, Meta glasses are trying to make a comeback now, but the Metaverse didn't pan out as Mark Zuckerberg hoped it would, spending billions of dollars on it. And that was during 2020, 2021. And now we're seeing this big move into artificial intelligence, which has more legs, but it also does not yet show a lot of return on investment. And that's not just specific to Meta, that's across all the tech industry. Not a huge return on investment so far when it comes to artificial intelligence. So I think going into next year, that 800 target, it may be audacious, but it may only be doable if we start seeing an ROI on Meta's spending, and if we see advertising revenue continue to grow. So that's, remember, Meta's primary income is going to be advertising revenue, which is going to be a huge focus for next year. As far as the company right now on its technicals, I would say that it's trading below that 682 resistance, which it will need to get above. So that's the highest point it saw after earnings. So the earnings drop, and there's that gap that it never filled after dropping on earnings. So it would need to get at least above 682 for buyers to have more confidence to start filling that gap up towards 740. Otherwise, the stock is at risk of just kind of moving back down towards 637. And then any negative news, especially after this earnings drop already ruined sentiment in the short term, any negative news could easily take Meta down towards that 580 mark again. So I'm leaning towards a little uncertainty on Meta. Long term, I remain bullish, but in the short term, I would say that Meta has to answer for all of its AI spending. Two, they have to showcase what they can do in 2026, and if they can confirm strong targets, then it may help restore confidence in that stock. Again, the concerns for AI spending is not specific to Meta, it's across all the industries. It's across all of large cap tech, including Amazon, Microsoft, Google, any of these companies spending billions on AI right now. Market weakness growing again today. You guys can see we're heading right back down to that low of day, which is around 686.70 on SPY. A break below could really, it could send us. BMNR. Let's see. Let's pull up BMNR. This is a Bitmine immersion. This is a crypto related name. So you could see clear uncertainty in this, just given the fact that its moving averages are so close to each other. What you'll also notice is that we don't have the 100 or the 200-day moving averages on this chart. The reason why is because although we have them plotted, the 100 and 200, they're not here because the stock hasn't been active for more than 100 days on the market. It's only been active since June of 2025. So it's not been active for a long enough period for the stock to generate, or for the chart to generate, the 100-day moving average or the 200-day moving average. So with that being said, if we can work with what we have the 50, the 20, and the 10-day moving averages, and it's trading below all of them. And you can see that there's a lot of pressure. Every time the stock has tried to get back above, it turned right back down and went down. So seems like there's more bearish than bullish pressure. Unfortunately for this stock, it's a new company during a time in which the crypto market is seeing a big drawdown. So 2024 or 2025 was supposed to be a really good year for crypto, given the fact that Trump and his allies were all pushing for crypto. But unfortunately, that wasn't the case. All right, so I did see that it froze, but I tried to restart it. Is this better now? Okay, so BMNR, let's try to get it out of the way before we freeze again. So I showed you already on the other chart. So let's go ahead and pull up some levels for you to focus on. So we have 2435 as a support, and then we have 18 as another support. So because BMNR has spent so much time moving sideways, I do think the stock is setting up for a big move soon. It's hard to say whether that will be up or down, but right now the trend is to the downside. So here are some levels to work with. If you are looking at the chart, you're looking at a resistance of about 34.50 to 35. And then a support of around 24 to 25, and then we have another support around 18. And then if it can break above 34 to 35, the target would be around 42. So I hope that helps you with BMNR. Of course, this is so tied to crypto, so I would continue watching the crypto market in order for you to get an idea of where it's going to go next. It needs a big bounce from crypto, obviously, for it to see a big upside move. As far as the fundamentals go, let's see if there's anything to look at here. The company is a $12 billion company, very, very, very little revenue. So I would be careful there. Balance sheet. A lot of assets on their balance sheet. Negative free cash flow. I wonder how much Bitcoin this holds. Oh, it's Ethereum. I'm sorry. It's so let's see. Yeah, so it holds about $12 billion in Ethereum. So rather than watching Bitcoin, you would want to watch Ethereum on this one. And if I like Ethereum personally, that's why I want to take that position in ETHA. I don't know if you've noticed in our group, we've been highlighting ETHA, which is the Ethereum ETF, for quite some time now, because I think Ethereum it has valid real life use cases, and we highlighted this when we covered ETHA not too long ago in our watch list. We talked about their use in poly markets, and how Ethereum is playing a critical role behind the scenes when it comes to this. Every trade, every market creation, every settlement, all of it runs on the Ethereum infrastructure for security, data storage, and final settlement. So that makes Ethereum extremely useful because we are moving in a world where it seems like betting on things is very popular, and they're doing all of this on the Ethereum network. It's becoming the base layer for the next generation of on-chain applications, and real-world platforms may be moving to blockchains. And if they do so on Ethereum, Ethereum is going to monetize that and make a lot of money from it. The Ethereum network will. So I think BMNR is a good way to play it. I think ETHA is a good way to play it. If you buy Ethereum directly, it's also a good way to play it. Whatever you do to get involved on Ethereum, if you have that room for that high risk tolerance in your portfolio, then go for it. I think Ethereum is a fantastic trade in the crypto market. It's probably my favorite play in the crypto market. I mean, and I think it's displaying more of a use case than Bitcoin is right now on the crypto market, especially with the rise of poly markets and Kalshi. Getting a question. Why is Exxon going up today? Is it setting up for a good buy or hold for now? Yeah, China stocks are moving today, but they're moving lower, unfortunately. We picked up Alibaba not long ago. I don't know if this is just a shakeout before a big push going into the new year, but I don't like it. Oh, 6 minutes into until 11 a.m. Let's go ahead and pull up gold and silver to see how they're doing. We already pulled up gold a little bit earlier, so let's go back to that chart. So where can gold go next? First of all, we want to just highlight the fact that we caught a gold put on December 24th. We entered at $350 a contract. We sold this morning at $465 a contract, 33% gain. And we caught that perfectly. You could see we caught the biggest downside day on gold that it's seen in a very long time. And we entered just a day before the big drop. So spot on when it comes to the gold play. Let's see where it can go next, right? So as you guys could see, gold is still generally in an uptrend. It hasn't broken that uptrend. It's still trading right around its 10 and 20 day moving averages, so still around the same price that it's traded at over the last 20 days. The only thing is, the stock now it's below its previous breakout. So you guys could see that this mark back in October 20th was the highest level, around 403.30. It broke above it last week, but it couldn't hold that breakout and it got sent back down below it. So that tells us that there's not enough strength to hold gold above 403, making 403 a really big pivot. If we zoom in a little bit closer and we look at the micro charts, we can see that gold is headed back towards its previous consolidation range between 382 and 392. And it's likely going to re-enter that range in the coming weeks. If it does re-enter that range, I think gold is likely going to slip lower towards that 370 mark over the coming months. Remember, gold, silver, and other precious metals and metals like copper and whatnot, these are not tech stocks, you guys. They move slower, so the initial drawdown like today may be very quick and may be very sharp, but they will move slower onto the downside or the upside. I don't think they will see really high movement or volatility. That's if you're looking at gold. It's going to be a tough climb back. I do think that prices are coming to their top. So I would be hesitant to say that you should quickly buy this dip unless you're holding for the decades to come, because it could take decades for these precious metals to re-enter new highs. Silver, pulling back significantly as well. Let's pull up silver here. Still trending above all of its healthy moving averages, but you can definitely see that after Friday's record volume, there's a big pullback, still above the 10 and 20 day moving averages, but it's looking like it's struggling to get back to Friday's highs already. So silver on the shorter term charts, let's go ahead and clear this. Let's pull up some support and resistance points. See, the tough part about a rally like this is because it was so vertical, it didn't really have time to really make a lot of supports and resistance points. So we're just going to have to kind of base it off of breakout points. So this was a resistance. This was the breakout point. It retested. Another support right around here. And then a resistance right around here. So right around 62.70, and then another support right around 58.60. So these are the next two big supports on silver. Resistance here is 66.60. Our velo position seems to be coming back this morning. We got into this not long ago. It's been kind of on a downtrend, but general trend has been holding pretty nicely when you look at the longer term charts. All right, 8:15. Let's start. Oh, it's 11:15 on the Eastern Coast. Let's go ahead and scan for stocks again. So the first time we scanned this morning, very weak turnout. Not a lot of stocks on our top gainers because the market was weak. But that was 2 hours ago. So let's see if that's changed. Let's see if we have more stocks. Wow, still super dry. Um, Penny stock, software stock out of Singapore. Infrastructure stock, another penny stock, another penny stock. These are all penny stocks. I'm not a huge fan of penny stocks. Sometimes you find like a really good name, but none of these look like they're that great. LPTH, this might be a good one. Uranium play, and we know Firefly. This is a aerospace company. Let's see what LPTH is doing here. LPTH. This is an electronics components company. Opticals and infrared components. $500 million company, generating a decent amount of revenue. I mean, 15 million is still a lot, but it's nothing compared to the big boys. Losing a lot of money. Free cash flow is negative, of course. Nothing special, to be honest, on its fundamentals, but this might still create a good play if it has a high short float. So again, guys, sorry we got interrupted for a second, but our scanner is really not picking up a lot right now. There is some movement in uranium. It looks like the stock UUUU is moving higher, but it doesn't look like any other uranium stocks are moving higher for us to say there's an industry-wide move. Very dry day on the market so far. It's Monday, it's the end of the year, holiday last week, Christmas, holiday again this week. Uncertainty around tech valuations. It's just the normal end of year kind of price action. We're not expecting a lot from the market. We just have to be patient during these times and be smart. Take profits where we can, cut where we can, and then just wait for money to kind of show where it's moving into the new year. So maybe we can take advantage of a January boom or January effect. But if you're a trader right now, you have to be more patient than you are aggressive. Sometimes defense is just a lot smarter than offense. Who doesn't know defense are those football teams that played last night. Neither the Bears or the Niners were playing defense. That's why the game had 51 points. I'm sorry, it was more than 51 points. That's why the game ended close to 80 points by end of day. Let's pull up our market watch again to see what it's doing. Remember, earlier we said the market watch showed a lot of movement towards consumer defensive, oil companies, and it still seems to be the case. You have oil companies moving higher. You have pharmaceuticals also pushing higher. You have Berkshire Hathaway pushing higher, which infamously is Warren Buffett's investment company. And that company has, I think, $400 billion in free cash. I think they have the most cash out of any other company on the market. So they could be used as a hedge going into the next few years. ASTS, Walmart. So consumer defensive and oil seem to be still leading the way, where big tech and high risk big tech is moving lower. BRKB. So we scanned for new stocks. Unfortunately, not a lot of stocks found on our watch list. We're gonna get through Google in about 10 minutes. So I believe Exxon's at our first price target here. Yeah, our price target on Exxon. So we set up on June 15th. This was through our watch list. Our price target was 120, second price target around 126, but we're holding Exxon for higher price targets under our hyper wealth group as well for a longer term position. But so far we're looking solid on Exxon. SPY is just hanging on to that low of the day right now. It could spell trouble for the rest of the day if we break below. So let's get into Google. We're about there. Google, general trend, obviously bullish. You guys could see that. But short-term trend, so near term, has turned a little bearish. You guys could see that Google is making lower highs and slightly lower lows, with the lowest point here being around 293 to 294, which is going to be labeled as our support. So we have our support 293 to 294, and then we have our resistance, which is going to be this line right here. You want to have to draw that line on your chart for you to see if it can get above it and start moving back up, or it's at risk of totally losing that support and moving lower. I'm going to put 309 as the support here. So I'm going to say between 308 to 309, it's going to be a critical support. If it loses that point, then there's a good chance it'll move below 300 in the coming weeks. So that's your Google chart right there. Let's go ahead and pull up Google a little bit on the fundamentals, just so we could see how the company is doing. $3.77 trillion company, trading at a price to earnings ratio of 31, so a little higher than the S&P 500 average, but far lower than Nvidia's 45. This is considered on the high end when it comes to the average 15 to 25 range that you want to buy into. The lower the better. But for large cap tech, right now, price to earnings ratios are pretty inflated just because there's so much optimism around it. So this is kind of normal for large cap tech right now. Revenue, as you could see, has been growing tremendously. The company had their first $100 billion quarter ever last quarter, which really triggered buyers. And then net income is growing even faster. Now, Google this year rallied, especially because the company finally won their class action lawsuit. So there was a class action that there could be a potential breakup of them between their Google Chrome and their search platform. But since Trump took office, and since there was a lot of shady dealings happening in the background with large cap tech, I think we can all remember the dinner that Trump had with all those large cap tech CEOs. A lot of them donated money, and right after that donation, a lot of these lawsuits started to drop and a lot of regulations started easing on these companies. And so Google was one of the companies that really benefited from this. And you could see that they really rallied so much, and they have so much potential that even Warren Buffett signaled a buy not long ago near these highs. So as far as the very short term goes, Google is still, it seems to be maybe reaching a top or a high. But over the long run, the company is still solid. This is a company generating close to $400 billion a year. And about 25% of that, if not more, is pure profit. Company's balance sheet has positive $386 billion in positive equity and $73 billion in free cash flow, making them one of the top companies with free cash flow on the market. Definitely a long-term winner as it stands, unless something changes. But the very short term, you want to kind of focus on these levels. If Google breaks that 308 to 309 support, I do think that it can re-meet 293 to 294 very quickly. And then to the top side, you need it back above at least 315 to start gaining ground again. Let's see if SPY can get above that low of day. We need to gain some ground here to earn buyer confidence. Remember, guys, SPY needs to close above 689.27 today in order for us to maintain the bullish overnight trend into tomorrow and the rest of the week. We need a big push. We need it soon. That way we can earn back some trust from buyers early on in the week. I will be hopping off soon, you guys. So if you have any questions you guys want me to go over, let me know. Or if you have any charts you want me to cover before I hop off, let me know. Otherwise, in a couple minutes, I'm gonna get into Tesla. That will be the last chart I cover today, and then we'll hop off until tomorrow. And I will also be on for the rest of the day in our group chat for those of you in our Hyperstocks Pro club. Thoughts on Julian and Trevor returning in 2026? Maybe. I'm not opposed to it. I just think that I wanted to take the group in more of like a focused view in the short term while we develop some things in the background. But I'm not opposed to it at all. I love Julian and Trevor. I think they're both great traders. I just wanted to test some things out, take the group with the focus on more like a fundamental approach rather than purely technical as they trade. Looks like they're trying to buy SPY up at that low of day still. Not a lot of strength so far. Let's go ahead and move over to Tesla. Let's see what Tesla is doing. That will be the last cover. That will be the last stock we cover today. And you're excited for Hyperstock's future. Thank you. I am too. I really hope we're able to, turn this into more of a professional platform. As you could see, like Zacks Investment Analysis and Morningstar and all these companies that, provide traders and investors with really in-depth breakdowns, professional breakdowns. That's really the direction that I want to take the company in. It just takes time. Starting from scratch is tough. But we're look how far we've come. We have more than 400 members. We've helped thousands of people. And I do think we could do a lot more, and we're only getting better. We're way better now than we were when we first started, and I'm happy to have people alongside growing with us. Tesla. So Tesla is down to its 20-day moving average this morning, but you could see that wick at the bottom of the day. This is the daily candle. It represents the lowest point it reached and how much it's bounced. So far, it is finding buyers right at that 20-day moving average and pushing higher. It hasn't turned green on the day, but it is moving in the right direction. The 20-day moving average, that purple line, is going to be our main support going forward and going into the rest of the week. As far as the shorter term chart goes, here are some levels to focus on when it comes to Tesla. If you don't have that 20-day moving average set on your chart, then your support is going to be right around 460 to 462. So that's where you want to put your support. And then as far as resistance goes, there's really not much resistance till about that 500 mark. And honestly, I could see why Tesla got rejected so hard right around that point, because 500 is a very strong psychological level, especially the fact that it is all-time highs for Tesla, and it's during a time where there's uncertainty in the rest of the market. So I think that the rejection off 500 was truly justified. It was very strong, but Tesla is known to be a super volatile stock. So if you're bullish, you're used to these big swings throughout the day or throughout the week. This is something that you should have tough skin on, especially with a stock like Tesla. But notice the dip has been getting bought. It's been getting bought stronger than the SPY dip has been getting bought, which is a good signal for Tesla buyers. Tesla needs to close above 489.09 today to regain its overnight uptrend, or else it's technically in an overnight downtrend because Friday it closed below the previous day's lows. So now it needs to close above Friday's highs in order for it to regain that overnight uptrend. General trend remains bullish. I do like that it's holding its 20-day moving average and defending that point, but it may take some more time between those two lines before gaining enough ground and moving above that 500 mark. It's still looking good for 500 plus as of now, but the sooner it regains its overnight uptrend, the better. Hopefully today the stock pushes above 489.09 and gives us that strong bullish close. Do we need to get into Tesla's fundamentals? This is a company that, of course, we've covered multiple times. Just briefly, Tesla is a 1.5 trillion dollar stock. A lot of closely held shares. It has 28% of internally held closed shares. Revenue has struggled significantly over the last 12 months because of everything that's happened politically with Elon Musk. But nonetheless, Tesla is moving in the right direction. They're full self-driving. Once that's able to be licensed and once they get full approval, is going to really be dramatic for the company because they can license it to other companies and they can make a lot of upside from it. Um, Profits have also been falling. So next year is really 2026, 2027 could really be turnaround years for Tesla because 2025 was a dip year for Tesla. It wasn't a good year at all when it comes to revenue or profits. So 2026, investors will really be looking at revenue. They'll be scrutinizing Tesla to see if they can come back around from all this, from the big revenue dip that they saw this year, especially the fact that EV tax credits went away. That's going to be a huge headwind, you guys. You know, without that $7,000 injection from the government per EV sale, per electric vehicle purchase, that increases the car's prices significantly. So Tesla needs to release that cheaper model that they've been talking about, and they need to figure out a way to boost buyers without having to give away too much of the price. You know, this is exactly why their net income has fallen so much. The company has continuously offered these discounts in an attempt to bring in customers, but it's hurting its bottom line. So Tesla's software licensing is going to be key because that's going to be a lot of profit margin. And of course, the company's revenue needs to turn around. They need to deliver more cars and they need to introduce a cheaper car or a cheaper alternative for them to do so, which they're expected to do soon. Big move from Velo today. We're holding this. This is a very good day for the stock. We're holding this so far. It's still below our average price, but it's a great day so far. I'm hoping we continue getting this uptrend today and maybe move towards 17. Remember, this company is working with SpaceX on their new engines, and they're working with Anduril. I think we've highlighted that a couple times, but that's a pretty big deal. Anduril is a very popular defense company, and SpaceX needs no introduction, obviously. So the fact that they have those two as customers, very strong sign that this may be a winning company. But of course, there's still a lot of work to do, but that's already a stamp of approval in our books. A lot of work to do, still a high risk company, but off to a good start. We're still holding our shares. Well, all right, guys. Thank you so much for hopping on. For those of you who did, I'm gonna end the live stream here. We covered what we needed to cover. Seems like volume is a little slow on the market. We'll continue staying. I'll continue being on in the alerts group. If you guys have any questions, just let me know there. And then we'll be back on tomorrow morning. So I'll be on 10 a.m. to about 12 p.m. tomorrow. So 30 minutes after the market open, I'll hop on. That way it gives me a little bit of time to kind of read up here and get ready and prep for the day. I would hop on right at open, but I have a lot of stuff to do in the morning, usually every morning. So, all right, guys. Well, thanks for hopping on. I'll upload this live to YouTube.